Alright, folks, we've got a Tupac movie, which is actually the soundtrack to the movie, and that is gang related. So I think there were two movies that Tupac Shakur was in 1997. He died in 96, but he filmed them in that year, and I think they were gridlocked and gang related. Now, the thing about these movies is there were soundtracks to both of them, and Tupac appeared, I think, more than once or twice on each of these soundtracks. The one I'm reviewing, he's on 4 songs. Now, this is a double disc album, gang related, one of the last Death Row releases. People said Death Row was dead after 96. There were actually some releases that came out in 97. And, this is a typical format these days for a rapper to release a couple albums and then be featured, have a hit movie soundtrack, and then they don't release an album that year. This has happened many times. Not everyone can pull it off, but it's interesting. The trick and the enigmatic thing about this is that Tupac was not alive in 1997, so we really have no clue what would have happened had this movie soundtrack been promoted better. As far as I can tell, there is not a single attached to it. Now, Tupac was huge in 96. So obviously, what this project is missing is something that just a huge Tupac song that would have made this go double, triple platinum. It doesn't have that. What it does have is what probably would have happened had Tupac continued to be here, which is him and the Outlaws and a bunch of West Coast artists. So to that end, it seems enjoyable. Now, in 24 songs, the main thing is the entire project is not. There are a lot of folks who I'm pretty certain have never dropped an album, so you get a lot of filler. And Ice Cube, Mac 10, some of the big name cats do not make the billing. Daz Dillinger, Corrupt are on here. But, this could have been a Death Row classic had it been nailed properly. But really, Tupac is the only one, outside of a surprise appearance of Technine, that makes hits. So, but there is some surprises. So this is still about a third of the album is good. So the production, this is what I was thinking. Really, you're going to like, I think, in a lot of ways, it basically sounds West Coast, and I'm glad for that. But also, main thing is that this the biggest weakness to it is it was just so under promoted. So it leaves a lot of question. You just wonder, well, damn, this is, the reason why I did this was because I don't see a lot of attention on this, and it definitely shows Tupac had plans for 1997, which, for all these folks out there who are obsessed with his living material, what he was doing is just as good. It just is a little bit, it just doesn't have an entire layer of gloss to it. That's what you're looking at. So I liked Made Niggas. That's a good one. What's Your Fantasy? The Nate Dogg song, Staring Through My Rear View. These are all some good ones that have pretty mellow beats. Just wondering how California would have fared the next year. But the unheard songs, which are songs that you may not have heard but need to take a listen to. Like I said, there's no single on this project, so most of it's going to be unheard. So there were 8 songs I liked out of 24, 4 on each disc. Here are the ones on disc 1. So I like Life's So Hard by Tupac, the Nate Dogg song These Days, Staring Through My Rear View with Tupac and the Outlaws, and then the Technine song Questions. Now we're going to talk about these. there were other songs, Daz Dillinger, Ice Cube, Mac 10. This would have, if each of these songs would have been good, like I said, this would have really cemented Death Row even further. But it was just, it sounds so, it's either elated or belated, I'm not sure which word, but it just sounds so worn out that it's just not as effective. The Nate Dogg song, this was really kind of funky record. Sounds like something the West Coast would have done. I appreciate that song rather well. Technine, this song, hearing this in 1997 compared to what he was doing the next decade, it sounds, if you've heard of a blast from the past, this seems like a blast from the future. The fact that Tupac and Technine are both on the same CD. And he sounds exactly like he would sound in the next decade, which is, if this were, January 1998 and you were hearing this, it just makes me wonder how many folks would know Technine would be one of the biggest rappers of the following years. But it's just strange, the fact that he's on here. It's a good song. You need to take a listen to it. Disc 2, there were 4 more songs. Those songs that I liked were Made Niggas, Loped Out Hood with Corrupt. The Made song is Machiavelli and Outlaws. What's Your Fantasy with the Outlaws and Daz Dillinger. And then Lost Souls with Tupac and the Outlaws. So basically what I'm trying to get you to know is these Outlaws songs were highly efficient. And it feels as if the Outlaws may have lost direction after Tupac died, but when he was working with them, they had something that just completely, steamrolled over a lot of rap at the time. And it's just unfortunate that they were not given the direction that they needed, because most of the songs that Tupac did with them, if you've seen my Still I Rise review, these songs were just gorgeous. They really worked extremely well. We might have had like a big trend on our hands, but really the Corrupt song, that one, I don't know how many folks, Corrupt he's kind of more a lay low type person, but if you dislike West Coast music, this is still good enough to check out. And, Daz shows up on the Nate Dogg song and the Outlaws song, so this is just extra stuff. The Dog Pound, that's further West Coast music to check out, so know that. I'm going to give this album a 4 out of 10, mainly because, there wasn't a single. Tupac is on point, but it needed gloss. That's the whole thing, is it's just a project that was kind of thrown at you, and there wasn't really anything that kept us going. So, and then on top of that, there's a lot of people who never dropped albums. The West Coast artists who are on here that we know don't really do it that well. If they would have, we probably would have had like 12 or 13, 14 out of 24, but, it just isn't enough. We needed a few more Tupac and Outlaws songs, and that's probably what would have cemented this record. So the future, there is none. Tupac is no longer here. The Outlaws hasn't been releasing music, and West Coast really needs like a boost. We've got some cats out there, but it's a different frame of mind. So the social score, I will give this a 5 social, and social just means how well it plays around others. Really, these secret Tupac songs are going to get a lot of attention. I think they should, just because if you listen to everything that he's done, these are songs that I think the likelihood of you hearing them is not very high. So that's definitely something to know. And so, plus the fact is all of these Tupac songs are good. So check, give them the CD is a little bit hard to find, but if you get it, just know that what you came here for is going to have it. So can it be topped? The answer is yes, and I've explained why. So Subscribe for more fun. I give this album a 4 out of 10 and a 5 social.